Does the counting of time in Genesis begin at the fall of man, or does it start from creation? And you can get from Ellen White that it started at their fall. But without her, the study of the Jubilees, I believe, gives you the same answer without having to rely on Ellen White. Leviticus 25 says, "And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family." So jubilee, the word in this verse, comes from the word truah, which is from ruah, which is an acclamation of joy through trumpets or shouting. And ruah means to split the ears with a shout for joy. It's a very, very loud sound. Says Job, says the Lord, "Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." That word there is ruah. So we know that there was this very loud shout at the creation of our world. "And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you. And ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of thy vine undressed. For it is the jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. Ye shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of the Jubilee ye shall return every man unto his possession." So here the word Jubilee is the word Yobel, which is a trumpet and a festival introduced. So it's like a commemoration of the Jubilee. So we see here that evidence that the Jubilee is a memorial of creation, when the sons of God shouted for joy at the creation of our world with an ear-splitting shout. The trumpet of Jubilee then is an acclamation of joy through trumpets, and it is a festival that is introduced by these trumpets. And as a memorial of creation, the land is not to be sold forever, for the Creator owns the land, and the land is to revert back to its owners. Again, because the Creator owns the land. The 6th year blessing was on the land, which is a promise that the Creator will provide for our needs. And we were told not to sow, for the Creator provides. And the slaves were to go free, which is returning to their original state of freedom as God created them at creation. Jesus answered them, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth ever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed." So we've been slaves to sin under its power, but it's the power of God that can set us free. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. It's Hebrews 11. So we see here this story of creation within humankind. In the case of Abraham, it was literally, creation to have a son. And that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness, Ephesians 4. So again, a new nature, a new creation in us. It's all pointing back to creation. So, as sinners are slaves, the Creator sets us free. Faith creates life from the dead, and a new nature is created. So, the Jubilee is also a memorial of creation that looks forward to setting sinners free by creation of a new nature through faith. In Genesis 2, we see that God rested on the Sabbath at creation. Sabbath command given at Sinai in Exodus 20 and Leviticus 23. The Sabbath command is a memorial of creation. Likewise, the Jubilee is the Sabbath year from Leviticus 25:2. And the Jubilee starts on the Day of Atonement, which is also a Sabbath. So, as a Sabbath, the Jubilee was given at creation and is a memorial of creation. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offerings, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. Leviticus 23. So here we see a principle of counting. They were to count off 7 Sabbaths. And in our modern reckoning of time, that was 49 days. But it is told us that it was 50 days. So how is that? The principle of inclusive numbering says that they included the day that they started counting from. So imagine from the morrow after the Sabbath, let's just say, this is the 7th day Sabbath that the feast landed on. So the morrow after the Sabbath is Sunday. So you'd start your count. In our modern times of counting, we'd say Monday was the first day, Tuesday is the second, so on and so forth. And we get then to 49 complete days. But inclusive numbering takes the Sunday and counts it as the first day. And so then when you count it off, you'll get 50 days, even though the time span is only 49 days. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. Leviticus 25:2. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes, and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Joshua 5:10. So the land was planted by the Canaanites on the entrance on the year when the children of Israel entered into the land. And there was a double blessing to support Israel. The land wasn't planted the first full year that the children of Israel were in Canaan, because they would have been fighting the Canaanites. And so they would have relied upon that first year, harvesting the land from the land, the fruits that sprang up on its own. Thus, we see that the first year would have been a Sabbath year. "6 years shalt thou sow thy field, and 6 years shalt thou prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of the harvest thou shalt not reap. Neither gather the grapes of thine vine undressed, for it is a year of rust unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee. Leviticus 25, 3-6. So we see a parallel there to Exodus 28-11, which says, Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So the Sabbath cycle begins with working days. And then the seventh day is a Sabbath, and the cycle is continuous. So after the seventh day, it just starts over day 1, 2, 3 again, and so it just continues on without a break. The yearly Sabbath cycle would have been the same thing. You'd have 6 years to labor and work your fields, and the seventh year was a rest, and then it would immediately repeat as a Sabbath cycle, just like the weekly Sabbath cycle. It's a continuous cycle. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land, unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. Leviticus 25. So, the first year was the first Sabbath, and it says that you're supposed to number 7 Sabbaths, and so that is a cycle of 49 years. However, just like the Feast of Weeks, it is counted as a 50-year time period, but using the same inclusive numbering principle, the 50th year would be the first year in the next cycle. And so the 50th year is the 8th Sabbath. So the Jubilee cycle begins and ends on a Sabbath, and then it's repeated. And if you shall say, What shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. And ye shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits shall come in, ye shall eat of the old store. So there is no mention of any blessing for 2 Sabbaths back to back. And the context of this is within the Jubilee. So normally on the yearly cycle, you'd have your bumper crop on the 6th year. The 7th year, you'd eat from your old fruit and plant the 8th year, and then eat of the new fruit on your 9th year. But when you get up to the Jubilee, well, if you would have 2 years of Sabbaths back to back, surely there would have been a repeat of this command, or this blessing, if you will, saying in the 49th year, you'll get your bumper crop, and in the 50th year, in the 48th year, you get your bumper crop, right? The 49th year, you wouldn't sow. The 50th year, you wouldn't sow. The First year you would sow, and the second year you'd eat. There's no such promise given in the Bible for a 50-year cycle. And so it must have been a 49-year cycle. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. Leviticus 25:2. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn on the land of the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes, and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. So, the land was planted by the Canaanites when the children of Israel came in. That year would have had the double blessing. So the land wasn't planted on the first year of fighting. And I think I misspoke earlier. They wouldn't have harvested on that first year either, since it was a Sabbath year. And so they would have to have been relying upon the stores of the blessing from the previous year when they came in. So we know that the Exodus occurred from yesterday's study on the year 2477. And Moses was 80 years old, according to Exodus 7:7. The entrance there's a 40-year time from when 5:17. The first year, that was the Sabbath year, then would have been 25:18, which would have been a Jubilee year. So I should say, this is the first location of a recorded Jubilee in the Bible, and there's two more that we're going to look at. The 18th year of Josiah. It says, now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month of the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river of Chebar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God in the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity. So the interesting part about this verse is it does give us a date, the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, but it refers to this 30th year. Traditionally, when you see a date, it's associated either with the 30th year of some king, or it might be the 30th year from the captivity of Jehoiachin, as we see in this previous verse. Or it could be the 30th year of a Jubilee. So from this reference, we know that the 30th year is from Josiah's 18th year. Now, the interesting part is Josiah, turned to God, and he was concerned with the temple and its state that had come into. And so he started renovations on it, and in so doing, they discovered the law of God in there. And they had it read, and Josiah listened to it and realized, hey, we have, our kingdom has been worshiping idols. We've rebelled against God. And God would deal with us. And so he inquired of God, and they ended up holding a great Passover. So this Passover occurred in the 18th year. It was very significant. it would make sense that that 18th year would have been a Jubilee year because of what the preparations they were making for cleaning the temple up, and also because it's referring to it as the 30th year without giving any cycle or any reference to some king. So it must have been the 30th year of a Jubilee cycle. In the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was smitten, in the self same day the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me thither. Ezekiel 40, verse 1. Now, the significant part of this is that it's in the beginning of the year. We know that the beginning of the year occurred in the 7th month, normally was on the last great day of Tabernacles. That's the beginning of the year. But on a Jubilee year, the beginning of the year begins on the Day of Atonement, which is the 10th day. And so this is strong evidence that the 25th year of their captivity was a Jubilee year. So taking a look at this little chart here, we see the 18th year of Josiah in the top left corner. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's in the handout, yes. In this section on the Jubilee. Page 22, you can see this chart. So the 18th year of Josiah was a Jubilee. And we know that in the 5th year of Jehoiachin's captivity, which is this vertical yellowish line, yellow-brownish line, that and then when you go to the 50th year of the Jubilee, which is also the 1st, you see that's also the 25th year of their captivity. It's also the 14th year from when the temple was destroyed. So we see that this is a perfect fit of 49 years between these two Jubilee years. So 2518 was the first year in Canaan, which was a Jubilee. The 18th year of Josiah was 3351. The 3400th year was the 35th year of the captivity. All of these years are on equal divisions of 49 years. So now the interesting part is if you take 2518, the first year in Canaan, which was a Jubilee year, and divide it by 49, you get 51.4. So the counting of time did not start at creation, but at sin. Because if the Jubilee cycle would have lined up with, if they would have started counting time at creation, we'd see that this date, 2518, whatever date it would have been, if you divide it by 49, it should have been an even number, not a round number, not a fraction. So they started counting time at sin. So the other question often is, well, when's the last Jubilee before 6,000 years? So if you take 2518 and add 49 times 71, you get the year 5,997. And if you adjust that into our modern year, 5,997 minus 3,974 plus 1 gives you 2024. Or from the uncertainty that I covered yesterday, that would be 2026. So then the Jubilee year would run from the fall of 2023 to the fall of 2024, or the fall of 25 to the fall of 26. Yes, so because the Bible says that the kings would serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. That was given in the first year, that prophecy was given in the first year of Nebuchadnezzar. And according to the canon of Kings, that is only 68 years until when is the canon of Kings wrong? And was that truly 70 years? Or did the 70-year counting start 2 years earlier when Nebuchadnezzar started fighting as a general for his father? So in my mind, there's not enough evidence to be able to nail it down conclusively. And so that gives us a little bit of uncertainty, which is parallel to the second coming language, where you're told to watch and pray, and look for the signs. The same thing as determining the new moon. It's near, but you don't know if it's going to be tonight or tomorrow night, or if it's cloudy, maybe it'll default to the third night. So there's a little uncertainty as to when the actual new moon is determined if you're simply observing. Now, with our scientific computers and everything, we can nail down, here the moon's 0.01% visible this night, but it's 1% visible the next night or whatever. And so they know when it will be visible, but if you were in ancient Israel and you simply going out and looking up at the sky, there's uncertainty as to when you'll be able to see that new moon. So I believe then that's paralleled here. We know that the time is near, we just don't know exactly when it is.